Hello, friends. How are you today? I hope you're doing well. My freaking sleeves. Okay. Hello, friends. How are you today? I hope you're doing well. I wanted to come to you today to talk about a story from the book because I felt like it was relevant based on some things that I've been posting lately. If you have been following along, you will know that on my Tumblr page, I have been posting some of the found photos from my life that I thought were lost when I lost all of the photos that were in my house. I was the type of person who printed my photos out, but I also had this magical thing called Google Photos that kept a lot for me. And so because of that, I was able to find a lot of memories that were in the book and then some that weren't and share them on my Tumblr. So some of them are about of when I worked in film and television production for many years. I have a degree in film, and it's actually a fine arts with a film emphasis. And I worked in film and TV and as a freelance person for many, many years. My love of the arts and sort of, I guess you would say, and the entertainment started very, very young. My love of media in general started very, very young. My grandmother used to take me to the library for reading hour. I started to read books, and I loved them. And for some reason, somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s, we started to go to the video store. And so I really became a fan of movies. And even when I was very young, I was kind of brooding the type, and I always loved more adult movies. So by the time I was 12 years old, my favorite movie was called In the Name of the Father. It's a it's a movie with Daniel Day-Lewis. It's based on a true story. And like those are the kind of things that I was attracted to. And my dad and I used to go to the movies all the time after school. And one day we were on our way into the movie, and there were two that were options. And one of them was the more adult themed Captain Ron, which is a Martin Short movie. And then the other movie was a kids movie called The Mighty Ducks. And I did not want to see that movie because it was too juvenile for me, obviously. But my dad did. And he was like, "You're always trying to go see the adult movies. One time, let's go see the kids movie of the Bad News Bears." And I'd seen that with my grandmother on VHS. So I reluctantly agreed to go see this movie. And I became mesmerized by the idea of these children actors, and particularly this one actor, or his eyes, the actor who played Adam Banks, who is, I don't ever think I've ever seen him after that. His name was Vincent something, I think LaRusso. But he had these very dynamic, giant blue eyeballs that looked like something magical. And I was not the only girl in my class that was obsessed with this guy and these eyes and the whole thing. It was very interesting. And I became just determined to become an actress at this point. I just thought it was the greatest thing on earth. It was my favorite idea. And within a few months, I found an agent in Las Vegas, and I booked myself an interview, and I got headshots. When you're really determined, you can do anything. You can make anything possible. And all I did was find the information myself. So I presented it to my grandmother, and then my grandmother made my dad take me down to these places and do these things for me. So I got this interview with this agent, and I go down there with my dad, and she takes me into a room, and I have my headshots, and I'm very excited. And she's looking at the headshots, and she says Jasmine, and then she looks at my last name, which is Napue, Napue. And she says, "What is that?" And I just said it. I said Napue. And she said, "No, what is it? Like, where is it from?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know. I think it's Southern Creole." And she said, "Well, it's very exotic. It seems kind of difficult to pronounce. What's your middle name?" And I told her, Sophia. And she said, "Jasmine Sophia. How does that sound? Does that work for you?" And I was like, "No, it does not. It very much does not work for me." And that soured me on the entire industry right there. And the whole rest of the interview, I'm sitting there just thinking like, this is weird. They did not pass the vibe check for me. So we left, and my dad was like, "How did it go?" And I was like, this was dumb, and I'm not going to even be a part of this. And he was like, "Why?" And I said, "Because she asked me to change my name. Like, the first thing she asked was, what are you willing to sacrifice? And would it be your whole bloodline? Like, will you deny your father and refuse your name to be a part of Hollywood?" The answer was a resounding absolutely no. And at that time, I thought, and I said to my dad, If that's what they're asking at the first interview, can you imagine what they would want from me if I accepted that? And that's a big ask. Will you deny your name? Because it's too exotic. Oh my gosh. But it's a ritual. It's a ritual. And it's the first one that they kind of will force on you if they can. And if you accept it, you have opened up a virtual Pandora's box to selling your soul. And that was something that I was never willing to do, not even at the age of 12, not even having been glamored by the Disney Corporation. Which is really interesting. Yeah, but that's just a story that I feel like it's relevant. So basically, I never stopped loving the entertainment industry. And so I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to go behind the camera because and I feel like that, I thought that's where the power was. And it is. There's more power in being behind the camera than there is in front because you're the crew and not the talent. And the talent has to be belittled in order to be controlled. So I had a lot of fun for many years as part of the crew. So then when I went to college, I took advantage of the semester exchange programs in order to see what style of film I would be interested in. So I took a semester exchange program at UCLA Film School, and then I took another exchange at Hunter College in New York City because I wanted to see like what both coasts had to offer. Now, I absolutely loved New York City. I loved the film scene. I ended up being an intern at a documentary film company, which was really what I wanted to do, was make documentary films. And it was an extraordinary experience. However, New York City was just too far away from my whole family, way too expensive for me at that time. And it was just unattainable. I enjoyed Westwood. I enjoyed UCLA. The campus is beautiful. The weather obviously is beautiful, but I did not like the energy of the Hollywood film scene, not even from the fledglings. It was just a bunch of pretentious people, all full of themselves with their heads up their ass. I'm not going to lie. And I'm talking about the same classes on one coast as opposed to another one. People keep it real on the East Coast. Even the people who are artists are not pretentious. There's just something about that Hollywood vibe that just really attracts like the lowest hanging fruit even in the arts world. And so I was kind of at an impasse because I financially could not afford to live in New York City. I could have managed Los Angeles, probably not even at UCLA, but I could have managed the Hollywood film life, but it just wasn't worth it to me. So I ended up working for many years just in freelance when shows and productions came to Las Vegas until one of my aunts married a man who owned a production company. And then obviously nepotism got me a bunch of jobs for many, many years. So the nepotism was what got me the most work, which I think is kind of funny and ironic. I can't even remember. There was the last show that I ever really worked on was Toddlers and Tiaras, and what I saw on that show was so disturbing that I really soured me to ever do reality TV ever again. And I really, really didn't want to even do anything in that realm again after I saw what I'd seen on that show, because I worked on a lot of reality TV shows with adults and I'd never seen behavior so horrendous. There was one mother who put Red Bull in a bottle and gave it to an infant so that it could stay up for the competition. Another woman used her baby as a prop for her older child in this little this thing, and the kid fell off the stage. I was just like, this other mother was giving pixie sticks to the little girl. The little girl was, again, a toddler, to keep her up. And I just saw a woman going into a swim school with a little girl who had the little girl couldn't have been more than like 2 years old. She had fake tattoos on her thighs. Come on, guys. That's a side note, but these kind of people are psychopaths. And they were what soured me for the whole industry, because like that kind of stuff is weird. And when you involve kids, I don't like it. Thank you. But anyway, that's the story of me and the Hollywood, kind of. Bye. Oh, and I almost forgot. Okay, so it was while I was at UCLA Film School that I was exposed to the way that Hollywood sets up relationships. because they did it in a class that I was in. And I cannot even remember the class, but I remember thinking this is wildly inappropriate for life in general, but specifically for this class. So it was some film class. It was about the history of film or something about film. And they were explaining how they couple up people in Hollywood. And they basically will show one actor or actress either the headshots or the sizzle reel of another actor or actress, or actually oftentimes many of them. And then you choose one from either the headshots or from what you've seen, and they set you up on a date with them. And the lady who was selling this idea was so gung-ho for it. She said, and you don't know how many times people have ended up getting married from the class. So our objective in this class was to pick a name out of a hat of a male if you're a female and a female if you're a male. Which obviously this was in the early 2000s. I don't even know if that would even fly nowadays. And you would go out on a date with them. To this Katz's Deli and come back and talk about it. And she was so excited because she said every year somebody ends up in a relationship and they end up going off to get married or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Now, I was not having it. If you've been following along here even a little bit, this was mortifying to me. The part where I had to go out on the date with the guy, I really didn't like that because who is this guy? You know what I mean? Like, we didn't even get to pick from headshots. We had to pick out of a hat. But I don't know. I was young and I didn't know what to do. I'm in the class. They picked the name. This is going to get really bad. So I went out on a date with this guy. I don't remember even what he looked like, what his name was. It might have been Lenny. I'm not sure. But it was mortifying because I did not want to be there because I had no attraction to this guy and we were on this date. It was insane. So I managed to make it through the date and we had a good time. And this is where it gets bad. I did not show up for the class to explain the date. I could not do it because I had nothing to say. And anything that I did have to say was going to be scathing. It was going to be like what I have to say right now. So I didn't show up and I felt so bad. Somebody from the class saw me a few days later and said, "Why didn't you show up?" The guy just stood there and he was so embarrassed. I don't know. I felt so bad at that moment, but surprisingly not that bad. You would be surprised. If I had been in Hollywood, I would have been a cutthroat mobo. Okay? You put me in one fucking casting call couch and the stuffed in that fucking couch. That's what would have happened. Harvey Weinstein would have been a stuck fucking pig. It would have been never. You know what? Let's start again. So basically that is just nothing that Hollywood has to offer is my thing. And I was tested on a very, very outside level and I just was not having it. That's just me. Anyway, and now I'm just here to make things right. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention the funniest part of that story is that there were an uneven number of guys and girls. So one guy actually had to go out with the teacher. Can you imagine? End of the day, I wonder which guy was more embarrassed. The guy who was matched with the teacher or the one who was matched with me? I guess I could take this time to formally apologize to that guy who likely will never see this video, but maybe energetically he'll be able to pick this up. You know who you are. Maybe he probably doesn't even remember me, or he does because it's one of the most mortifying things in his life. And he might think that it's because I didn't like him, but it's not. It's because it was just weird. And by the way, I never went back to the class at all. Not just that day. I never went back to that class at all. I never went to Hollywood. I basically only went back to Westwood even one time after that. That's a hardcore. Oh my gosh. But anyway, sorry to the guy. Seriously, because the guy was nice enough. He was nice enough. Do you know what I mean? But the incident, the situation was atrocious. I cannot do stuff like that. What do I look like? Who do I look like? Justin Bieber? Nope, sorry.